and hit save. So if I come back here and refresh this page, we're going to start to see it take shape because we've created all the components that we're referencing. And so the first thing I'd like to draw your attention to is that let me open this up. So in the, where was it, the main layout, I console log this.props.log this, which I passed into this class as a property. So that's basically what's happening. We're passing in components to the main layout components. So I would reference header, content, and footer in the very same way. Except what we could do is if you want to render the content of a property, you put it in single curly brackets. So it's like Blaze, except you're not using two curly brackets, you're just using one, and you just type it. So let's type this.props.header, this.props.home, or content rather. We're referencing that here. We're setting it, the property as content, so we're going to reference it like that. And then the footer as well. So this.props.footer. We're going to save this, and this is our main layout. So the header, if I, for instance, made a route called flow router.route /page, then opened up curly brackets here. Let's name it page, and the action is going to be render view. And let's say I had a component named this page. I would do that, and it would render that component into the main layout with the header, that component, and then the footer, and we're also passing this just as a proof of concept. But I'm not going to do that. So now we've got this. But Bootstrap does not appear to be working, and I think maybe I've forgotten to add Bootstrap here. I don't think it got added. Maybe in the last video I know I added it. Maybe I canceled out of it for some reason. So let's go ahead and get that added. So Control C here, Meteor add TWBS : Bootstrap, and hit enter. All right. So now I'm going to run Meteor again. And the page refreshes automatically because it's Meteor. What we're going to do next is get into the programming of this. So I'm going to close these because I no longer need them. And in server, I'm going to create a new directory called collections. And in here, I'm going to create a new file. And I'm going to call this collection posts. And so posts equals new Mongo collection posts. And then I'm going to write posts.allow, insert, function, return true, update, function, return true, and remove. Function, return true. And this is going to allow us to insert, update, and remove from that collection. So the posts are going to, let's create a way to put the posts in first. So in the home page, actually I'm going to create a new component here called insert post.jsx. So insert post is going to be the name. It's going to be equal to react.create class. And I'm going to basically render some HTML to put a post in to the database. And so I'm going to form, actually I don't need that. Let's just use a text area. Placeholder is going to be type of post. Name is going to be, actually let's just give it a class name. And we're going to put form control and an ID of post body. There. XML tag has empty body. All right. And then a button. So button class name is going to be button.info, and it's going to say save post. So let's save that, and in the home component, let's render that. So let's just insert post. There. Oh, right, I have to wrap it here. There. All right. Let's indent this so that it doesn't look too bad. And if we refresh this, we're going to see that our new component has been rendered. But if we type stuff, it doesn't do anything right now. So let's have an insert to that collection over here. And how we do that is we're going to create a new function here called insert to collection. It's going to take event. And so once you start getting more functions in React components, you need to separate them with a comma. And what we're going to do is we need to say on click and in curly braces type this and then the function name. So this is going to be insert to collection. And we're not passing anything to it, so you can leave out the brackets here at the end. And the first thing we're going to do is event, prevent, default. And then we're going to get the post body. So content, actually I need to var content equals, then we can just use straight up jQuery here to get post body. I'm going to console log content, make sure we're getting it. Oh, didn't mean to copy that. There. So let's save that, come back here, refresh this. There we go. And so we are getting that content into that function. So from this point, it's basically regular Meteor stuff. You're going to type posts, insert and then you know, content is content. So save that and refresh. And actually, to be able to, I am going to wrap this in a form element just because it's there, so that we can hit enter in the text area, and it will also submit it. So on submit, we're going to call this dot insert to collection. So we can actually just change this to type equals submit and remove this part here, and this button will also function as a means to insert into the collection. So if I come back here and refresh, let's make sure that gets into the collection. So this is a post to insert to the collection. I'm going to hit enter. Oh, right, it's the text area. Never mind. And I'm going to save that, and it logs it out. And if I want to make sure that it inserted successfully, I'm just going to, in the console log here, I'm going to find and let's just do that, fetch. And it did put it into the database with content there as the key. So let's actually extend that a bit further by adding date added. It's going to be new date. And if you want to be able to read it easier, you can do this. That's what I usually do. And it's going to make it easier if you get like huge objects that you're putting into the collection. So I'm going to delete that console log now. We do not need that. So now we've got this working. It's a component to insert posts. But how can we get them out of the database? So over in our home component, I'm going to do a couple things. The first is going to be I'm going to add a property called mixins. Put a colon and then this. I'm going to type meteor react meteor data. So now we can create a new function, and it's going to connect meteor data to the component, and the function name is going to be get meteor data. We open it up, we do this. So right now I'm going to just get all the posts, and so I'm going to variable posts equals posts find fetch. And then in here we're going to return certain things to the render function. So I'm going to just type return and then open up curly brackets here. I'm going to return posts as posts. I'm going to save this, and now what we can do is we can access that from the render function by, for instance, let's create a variable here called all posts, and it's equal to this.data.posts. I'm going to console log all posts. I'm going to save that. I'm going to refresh this page. And it's going to log all the posts, which right now this is the only one we have. So that's awesome. How do we get it into here? Well, let's actually go back to insert post here. I'm going to create an input field. Class name is going to be form control. The ID is going to be user. And the placeholder is just going to say user name. Let's end that. Let's put a line break there. I'm also going to put a line break down here. I'm going to also handle this. So var user equals, and then just straight up jQuery from here, the ID of user dot val. I'm going to insert that to the collection as well. So user equals user, and then a comma. So we now have 3 fields that will get entered into the collection. I'm going to remove the current one that we've got because it doesn't have this necessary information in it to render it. So I'm just going to type posts find fetch. I'm going to get that ID. I'm going to say posts remove ID that and enter. Now if I run posts find fetch, it finds nothing because we've just removed it. So let's create a component to render the post. So in the home directory under components, I'm going to create a new file, and I'm going to call it post dot, or just single post.jsx. So as usual, post equals react dot create class. Open it up here. And what we're going to do at this point is something a little different, because each post that's rendered needs to be rendered with this single post. So what we're going to do is we're going to pass the post ID as a property to this function. So let's just type render and let post ID equals, and then the post ID. This props post ID. Now, something I like to do, if we're passing multiple properties and they're always passed in as this props and then the name of it, what you can do is you can actually do this. So just wrap your variables in these curly brackets, and let's say I also had a post image and whatnot, and this would say basically each one of these is equal to this dot props dot whatever it is. So it's really useful when you're using multiple ones. And right now I'm just going to console log post ID and then the post ID and return div. Whoa. There. So what we're going to do is we need to map the posts. Actually, let's get to that after. Let's add a couple tasks in here so that we can actually pull them out and see what we're working with. So username Nick. This is my first post. Hit save. And I should set it to automatically reset these to default empty when we save it. This is another post, and then something you'll really enjoy. So now I've got 3 posts, and I want to pull them out down here. So now to render posts, we need to create a couple methods here in the home file. So one of them is going to be called get posts, and we're going to pass it an ID. And the other one is going to be called render posts. So what we're going to do is the get post is just going to return all of the posts. Actually, I don't need to pass it an ID. So get posts, let's just do return posts find fetch. And then from here in render posts, we need to return this get posts, and then we're going to type map, and we're going to call it post here and put a little fancy arrow to an object. We can end that with a semicolon. And we're going to return the post component with the post being sent as an attribute or a property. So let's end that with a semicolon as well. And what we need to do is in here in the main body, I'm going to put a line break there, and then I'm going to call this render posts. So let me have a quick look over here, make sure it's all good. It looks all good, so let's go back here and what we need to do is in post, see, there we go. In posts, I'm just returning this. So let's do class name is card. And then in here, let's go with an H3 tag. And here, see this property? That's what I'm expecting to get. And so the post is the only property that I'm setting over here. So I'm going to, in curly brackets here, I'm going to put post user, and then in a paragraph tag, I'm going to put post content and save. And so to recap, what we're doing is we are mapping the results of this function to basically this, and this is a new way we can actually pass each item from these results over as post to this little block here, which returns the component, and we pass the post through with the property name of post. So in the post component, we can reference the entire post as this from this props. So if I go back here and refresh, I've got 3 there, and this is not working. What have I done wrong? So I'm going to pass the ID along as a key property here. So post._ID. And the reason why I wasn't rendering the posts is because I forgot to add the brackets here so that it runs this function. So if I save that, go back here and refresh, I'm going to see this. Now I'm going to, let's say, Add a few of these here. And the great thing about React is when something changes, it scans the document, and you'll see over here React IDs, and it performs a diff of the current content versus the new content and only rewrites the portions that need to get rewritten. So it's a lot faster, and that's why it's better to scale using React than Blaze. Second post of mine, which will be a bit longer. So I'm going to style this up a bit, and I'll be right back. All right, guys, so this is getting closer to done. We now have a working way to insert posts and also view the posts here. One thing you'll notice is that we've got posts by two different people. So how Meteor should handle this in React and FlowRouter, we're going to modify our home component a little bit to be able to use a different route. So I'm going to go into my router file here, FlowRouter, and let's name the route posts by and then user. So the colon here basically means that what follows is going to be the name of a variable, and we can use that variable by accessing params. So what I'm going to do is name the route posts, and the action, and we're going to pass params to the action, is going to be render view. I'm going to reuse the home component here, but I'm also going to pass it in with user property, and that's going to be equal to params.user. And so now I'm going to close this component and end that with a semicolon. I actually need to, there, that got a little displaced there. Silly issue. When we create new routes, we need to type flowrouter.route. All right. So what we need to do now is we need to make this a conditional if we're on, basically in the router we're passing a user property here, but we're not here, so we can use this to identify if we're on this route. So what I'm going to do is here in the get posts method, I'm going to say if this .props.user, we're going to return posts find, where the user is equal to this .props.user. I'm going to fetch those. Else, we're just going to return all the posts. So if I go back here and refresh this, I'm going to see when I view posts by Nick that these are the only results I get. And when I view posts by Pete, these are the only posts I get. And still accessing the home page, I will get all of the posts. And so you can see how you can really reuse components here to be able to serve conditional data. Now, that's basically all Meteor is. It's very simple and straightforward. Using with React and FlowRouter, I really recommend it. It's much faster. The development, I mean, it's basically quicker to do everything. It's quicker to develop, it's quicker to browse, and it makes your app faster in general. So I hope you guys found this video informative. I know it's a bit longer than the other ones, and so hopefully you know, the next few videos will be shorter. I think they will. And I'm actually going to provide this code to you guys through GitHub. So right now we're going to be combining a bit of what we've been doing. So I'm going to go to github.com. I'm going to create a new repository here, and I'm going to call it Meteor React Tutorial. And let's initialize it with a README file. And then, all the usual stuff. So from right in the directory here, type git init, git remote, add origin. Oh, I need to paste that URL here. I'm going to close WebStorm so that we can get rid of the .idea directory. Okay, so we can just use the regular rm rf idea there. And then we're going to run git ignore idea / git add a git commit m. The message is going to be example Meteor React stuff, and git push origin master. There we go. If I refresh this, we should see, so here is the entire Meteor project that we just created. You can find it at github.com/nickgermain/meteor-react-tutorial. So thanks for watching this video. I hope you guys found it informative. If a bit long, hopefully the next set of videos should be a bit shorter. Hey guys, thanks for joining me again. In this video we're going to be discussing Apache 2, but we're more going to focus on Apache 2, PHP, and MySQL. So we are in essence going to configure and set up a LAMP stack through this video and the next video. This video is going to be more of a beginner's point to actually install everything necessary and get a basic configuration set up. And in the next video, we're going to be going through more advanced configurations that you might want to do. So pull up terminal and install the necessary packages. So sudo apt-get install Apache 2, PHP 5, MySQL server, PHP 5 common, and that should do it for now. So hit yes. It is going to download about 40 megabytes of data, so this may take a little bit of time depending on your connection. So Apache is the server that runs quite a bit of the internet, and it basically allows you to host websites and stuff. So if I were working with my server through SSH or something, I would be doing this to install Apache and whatnot on it to be able to get it to actually serve web pages and content. So that's why you would use Apache. Now you might just be playing around, with creating websites, and you find you need to. I've found actually recently that you can't use less.js. Without going through the server and the domain and stuff. If you just load it up, if you create a basic HTML file that uses less and the less.js file, you can't just open it at like file : / and then the file path. You're actually going to have to set up Apache and serve it as a web page on localhost. So with MySQL, which is another SQL server, that this is more commonly used with PHP, and it's for good reason. I mean, it's good. It's just not my preference. I really like MongoDB, and MySQL is more compatible with PHP from what I understand. And so you might use this if you are hosting a WordPress blog, or if you're doing PHP MySQL development, or if you're maintaining something. So the MySQL service needs a root password. So the username is root and the password is going to be whatever you set it to. So I'm going to set it to this. You're going to have to retype it. And I think that's the only user interaction that this is going to require. Should just return me to the prompt in a moment, and then we'll get to how to start Apache and PHP and whatnot. All right, so now that we've got all that installed and set up and everything, what you're going to do is start the Apache 2 service. And so just type sudo system control start Apache 2. And right now we should just be able to go to localhost on no port, and we'll see the default Apache 2 directory or web page. So the first thing we're going to do, and you're going to see why. Let me open up File Manager here. I'm going to show you where Apache 2 serves the files from default. So we're going to go to Other Locations, Computer, var. So from the root directory, it's going to be var www html. This file is the page we see right here. We see that root owns it, and so if we were to edit the file and save it, we wouldn't be able to. We'd have to run everything as sudo or root, and that's bad, so we're not going to do that. What we're going to do is we're going to make a few configuration changes. The first one, let's go with sudo chown nick var www. Actually, we need to do that recursively. There we go. Now let's have a look. Make sure this went through. Good stuff. Now the second change we need to make is within the configuration file of Apache itself. So let's change directory into etc apache 2. And we're looking for apache2.conf, so run sudo nano apache2.conf. And that's actually the wrong thing, so we're going to come back to this file later. We actually need env-vars. So let's go sudo nano env-vars. And what we're going to do is change the run user to our user and the run group to our group. Control O, Control X. Now you actually need to restart the server. So if I were to refresh here, if we had any major changes in configuration, they wouldn't take effect until we restart. And we'll learn that in the next video when we actually set up virtual hosts and whatnot. You'll see they won't work until we restart it. So sudo system control restart Apache 2. Just going to restart this. Now, basically what we've got right now is the ability to edit this file. So the first thing I'm going to do is delete this file. Now I'm going to create a new file. So let's go, let's just open gedit here for, actually, let's use nano. So var www html, and we're going to, since we actually have write access in here, we no longer need to use sudo. So just nano index.php. And just to confirm that PHP is working, we're just going to do this, Control O, X, and then refresh. Why is that not working? Let's try this. There. There we go. I got, I forget sometimes with PHP how the info command is written. I think it's PHP. I think it's just this actually. Yeah, so if I refresh, yeah, okay, so there's no underscore. For some reason, I keep thinking there's an underscore in it, so every time I do this, I always try once, fail once, and the second time I get it. So this is the output of a configuration check, I guess, for PHP and the server itself. It'll give you all sorts of information about PHP and the server and the environment and whatnot. So that's how to set up PHP. MySQL and Apache. I don't know, like people think it's this huge thing to be able to configure a server, and really it's that simple. You just install a few packages, start the service, and you're good to go. So yeah, in the next video we're going to be going over some MySQL stuff, advanced Apache 2 configuration stuff, and that's about it. So thanks for watching this. I hope you guys managed to get your own web server set up with this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Hey guys, I wanted to take a brief moment here and touch briefly on the hosts file on a Linux system and what that is and what it does. Because we're going to be using it in the next video, and for the next few videos we're going to have to configure some things in our hosts file. So to put it simply, and I'm not going to get too much into networking right now, as that's what we're going to be doing later on in this course. So for right now, basically, when I type in google.com, what my computer does is first it checks if there's any specified routes in my system that tells it where google.com is. If not, then it goes out to the internet and looks for stuff. So what we're going to be doing with the hosts file is intercepting requested domains from our machine. So let's go ahead and open up terminal, and I'm going to show you guys what I mean. So we're going to cd into the etc directory here, and I'm going to type sudo nano hosts. So there's a hosts file in the etc directory, and we need to go in there and edit it. Now we've already set this route up for the next video. It's app.localhost, and that's what we're going to be using to deploy our Meteor application. But right now I want to show you guys how this works. So the first element in the line is an IP address. That's the IP address for our case. It's going to be our local machine. And so the local IP address for this machine, for any machine, for your machine, is going to be 127.0.0.1. And that's going to tell whatever we type in next to go to localhost, and then Apache is going to pick it up from there, and it's going to do stuff with it. So I'm going to type google.com in here, and I'm going to save this. And now when I try to go to google.com, it's going to go to my Apache default page, which is stored at var.www. or var/www/html and the main file in there. Now, what I could do from this point would be to configure a virtual host to handle google.com as its own virtual host, and in order to serve up a specified web page from my local machine. We're not going to get to that right now. We will in a few videos from now. Now I'm going to remove this because I don't want Google to always be redirected to my local machine. What I'm going to do is create a subdomain of localhost, and so it's going to be subdomain.localhost. And I'm going to save the file here. Now if I go to http subdomain.localhost, it's also going to redirect to the main HTML directory. So this is going to be necessary for the next few videos. We are going to be redirecting certain localhost addresses and subdomains to our local machine, and then we're going to get Apache to intercept them and to serve up content based on that. So I hope you guys found this video informative. In the next video, we're going to be installing our Meteor application. Hey guys, welcome back. So my desktop looks a bit different because I accidentally destroyed my Ubuntu partition. Well, it wasn't an accident, I guess it was a mistake. I was reformatting a partition to put something else onto it, and I didn't think that the partition I was reformatting was the one that had Ubuntu on it. I thought Ubuntu was on a different partition, and so I completely lost the entire installation. And so I've installed Zorin OS 11, which is based on Ubuntu 15.10, so it's the same version that we were using when we started, and that means that everything's going to be the same. The only thing is it's going to look a bit different. So, in this video, we're going to be going over how to deploy our Meteor app to an Apache 2 server. And so the first thing we need to do is open up Terminal here, so Control-Alt-T, and then change directory into the project's directory. And then what we need to do is we need to build the Meteor app. So you're going to issue the command Meteor build, and then where it builds to. So this is going to be one directory up into do app. All right, guys, so that took a little longer than I expected. It does take a bit of time because it's compiling the entire project into its final form. So what you're going to see is that if you change directory up one level, that we've now got a to-do app directory. So I'm going to change directories again into there. And we've got a resulting tar.gz file. So what we need to do is copy this to our Apache HTML directory. So just type cp to-do.tar.gz, and then where we're putting it, which is here. Now, if you change directory to there, you'll see that you've got to-do.tar.gz there. So what we need to do is extract this. So you're going to run the tar command like this. Tar, and then the first parameter is going to be -xvf, and then the file. So to-do.tar.gz is going to extract it. So when you run ls again, you should see a bundle directory. So we're going to go into there. Now, what we need to do next is to install Node.js. You won't be able to install from the repositories, as the version that's included in the repositories is Node 0.10.25, and the version that we actually need is 0.10.29 or higher. So what we're going to do is go add a specific package. This is the URL. I will include it in the in this lecture. What you're going to do is just if you go to the PPA here, you'll see Trusty, Utopic, Vivid, and Wiley. And we're on version Wiley, so it's grayed out. But if you're not yet, just click whichever one makes sense for you according to your system. And then scroll down a bit here. And click on the most recent package. It's going to take you to this page, which I was on before. And then click 64-bit dev package to download it. And click keep. Now you're going to open this, and it should open up the software center. We're going to be manually installing this. I've already got it installed, and so it's not going to let me, well, it would let me reinstall it if I wanted to. I'm not going to do that. Basically, once it opens up, it's going to prompt you that an older version's included in your system's repositories, and it's recommended that you use that version instead and only install this if you know what it is, basically. You can just disregard that. This is the package we need, so you're going to see an install button here on the right. Just click that and let it install. Once it's done, you can close this program here. Come back to terminal, and from the bundle directory, you actually, if you run the ls command, this is what the structure of the directory looks like. The main.js file is going to be of interest here in a few minutes, but for right now, just change directory into programs/server and run sudo npm install. And what this is going to do is it's going to reinstall Node.js fibers for our Meteor application. So now the app is ready to go, but we've got to configure a few other things. So the first thing we need to make sure is running is Mongo. So just type sudo system control start MongoDB. And we can confirm that it's running by going to localhost at port 27017. And we'll get this message, and that basically means that it's working and running. So what we need to do is create our user for our database that our app is going to use. So our application is going to use a database we'll create called app. So what we need to do is connect to the Mongo shell to create a user for that. So just type Mongo. It's going to take you in, and it's going to automatically connect you to a test database. We need to be using our database, so type use and the name of our database. And now we're going to create our user. So to do that, type db.createUser. That's a capital U in user. Open up brackets, and inside that, some curly brackets, and then type name, and in quotations, your username, comma, pwd, and then the password you're going to use, and then roles. And in here, you need to open up square brackets, and inside that, some curly brackets. Type role, and in here, type read write as the value. The W in write is capitalized, and then DB, and then the name of the DB. So it should look like this. Make sure your syntax is correct. It's very easy to miss commas or brackets when you're working in the Mongo shell. When you're ready, just hit enter, and it should create a user, and it should tell you that it successfully created the user. For me, it gives me an error because I've already got that user created. So now we can exit it here, and we're back into our shell. So now we need to configure Apache. Actually, first we need to do one more thing with Mongo. So type sudo nano /etc, and it's going to be mongodb.conf. We've got to turn authorization or authentication on here. So just come down to this line that says auth equals true, and just remove the hash symbol. Control O to save, Control X to exit. Now we're going to restart MongoDB. So system control restart MongoDB. Good stuff. Now we've got to configure Apache, and this is going to be the point of the video, I guess, is this is an advanced configuration of what you can do with Apache, and it's not going to be all-encompassing. You may need to use some different modules or with Apache than what you need with Meteor. If you're deploying a Meteor app, this should work flawlessly for you, but this gives you an idea of the fact that there are different modules that you can enable and disable in Apache if you need them. So we need to enable 3 modules for Apache to handle the proxy, because we're going to be running our app on port 58080, but we don't want users to have to remember the port number, and we definitely don't want the port number visible in the URL. And so this is what we need to configure for Apache. So to do this, type sudo a2 nmod proxy, and then sudo a2 nmod proxy _HTML, and then sudo a2 nmod proxy _HTTP. Now, once you've got this done, we actually need to create the virtual host. And so what a virtual host is let's say you want to run 6 different websites in their own directories at 6 different domain names. So let's say you have 6 domain names pointing to this, or actually let's say you've got 1 domain name pointing to this server, but you want to use subdomains, which is the portion before the domain. So you could have like app.yourdomain.com, app2.yourdomain.com, and here's how you would set up those. So what we need to do is go into etc/apache2, and here you can see that we've got a sites available directory, and we're going to create a file in there. So just type sudo nano sites available, and I'm just going to call it app.conf. And we've got a blank file here, and we need to create the virtual host. So I'm going to explain what I'm doing as I'm doing it. So we're going to open up the element, which is virtual host in its camel case. We're going to specify the port that it's listening on, which by default for Apache is port 80. That's the default port for web traffic, and that's what you should be using. And then we close off that element. Now, the first thing we're going to do is assign a server name. And this basically tells the virtual host what name it should be listening to. So it's listening on port 80, and now we're going to tell it that this configuration is for the domain app.localhost. And then we need to type proxy requests space off. We'll jump down a few lines, and we're going to configure the proxy. So it's kind of like HTML. You're opening elements and typing things in. So we're going to type order deny comma allow, no space between deny comma and allow, and then allow from all. And then the final bit in here, we need to actually configure the proxy and tell it what it's listening for on which ports and whatnot. So to do this, open up a location element. And the location is going to be a /. This means it's the root of this domain. So we should be able to access app.localhost, and it should work great. So we need 2 lines in here. The first is going to be proxy pass, and then what it's passing this to, which is going to be localhost at port 58080 and a /. And then proxy pass reverse is going to be the exact same thing. And then hit Control-O to save. We're done with this. Apache's all configured to translate localhost at port 58080 to the URL app.localhost. So save it and exit. So now that we've got the virtual host configured, we can actually add this site or enable it. And to do that, you just type sudo a2n site, and then the name of the site. In this case, it's app, because it's everything that's prefixed from the extension. So everything before the .conf. So I'm going to type app. So now that we've got all the modules enabled, the virtual host configured and enabled, now we can restart the Apache 2 service. So system control, restart, Apache 2. Now we're going to get back over to our HTML directory. So cd to var www html bundle. And what we're going to do is, in order to run the Meteor application, we need to set a few environment variables. And you can do this from terminal. You can just type export and then the name of the variable. So let's just create a variable called myvar equals and then the value. So if you're using digits or characters, you don't have to put quotes, but if you're putting a string, so spaces in there, you've got to put them in quotes. So this is a variable. And I've just created that variable, and then I would be able to echo that out in the shell by typing that. So rather than set the variables like this though, because the downside is that as soon as I close this terminal, all those environment variables are lost. And so if I need to restart my app, say in a week or so, I don't want to have to retype all the variables. So what we're going to do is create a shell script to do this for us. So type in nano, and then in documents, so in my home directory in documents, I'm going to create env.sh. So the first thing we need is the crunchbang, and we need to tell it what type of file it is. So user bin sh, this is going to tell it to run with bash. And then we can just start creating our variables. So we need 3. The first one we're going to configure is port, and we're going to set that to 58080. So that's the port that this Meteor application will run on. The next one is the root URL. So we need to set this as to what the URL is going to be that the app is running at. So in this case, it's app.localhost. And then one more, we need to add a Mongo URL. And this is going to be a URL using the MongoDB protocol. And so the way we type that is MongoDB : the name of the user account of MongoDB, and then the password of that MongoDB user account. And then we put an @ symbol. So the first 2 bits of information is the username and the password, and then the host name, another colon, and we're going to specify the port here, and then a / and the name of the database, which in our case is app. And this is literally all we need. So what I'm going to do is hit Control-O to save and Control-X. Now, what you're going to have to do, so let's say I need to restart the app in a week. I won't need to retype all those variables and the values for them. I'll just have to rerun the script. So how we run the script is normally you would run a shell script by typing sh and then the location of the script. But in order for the variables that we're exporting in that script to be integrated into the environment that we're working in, we're going to use the source command. So just type source and then the location of the script. And then you should be able to echo for instance, port, and it should print out the port, and it does. So what we can do at this point is run the application, and we should be good to go. So to do that, just type node.js space main.js. And I'm getting an error because I might have this running already, so I'm going to kill all Node.js actually. I'm going to try that again. So Node.js main. And no errors, so I should be able to go to the localhost port 58080, and I should reach the to-do app, and I do. But aside from that, I should also be able to go to app.localhost, and that works as well. Now, this will work, but as soon as I exit out of here, you're going to see that the app is unavailable. And that's because when you exit out of a Node.js shell instance, basically it stops the app. So in order to run this outside of this instance of Node.js, you need to install an npm application called Forever. So to do that, type sudo npm install -g, and the -g on the npm install, basically all it is it tells it that we're going to globally install the following application. Normally, if I didn't include that -g, that would just install Forever to the current node instance, which is our Meteor application, and I wouldn't be able to use it elsewhere in the future if I needed to, unless I installed it there as well. So I'm going to put the -g so that it's globally installed. I can use it anywhere. And then just type Forever. and it's going to, check through the package list of npm, and it should install it. And when it does, you should see an output like this. So now that we've got forever installed, what you can do is type forever start main.js. And we get this notification here. It says it's processing the file main.js, which means we should be able to access the app. And you'll notice that we're outside of that instance in terminal. So if I were to close this terminal completely, the app would still function as normal. And so that was an example of how you would deploy a Meteor application using Apache 2 and the proxy pass module in Apache 2 in order to serve the application through Apache and do some internal translations between the ports and the address and whatnot. And again, this was a look at how much more advanced Apache 2 can get. There are some other things that I'll touch on right quick. So if you are, for instance, using WordPress and you want to enable like pretty URLs, they call them permalinks. If you want to enable permalinks, you'll have to have a mod rewrite module enabled. And so how you would do that is sudo a2 nmod rewrite. And it's now enabled, and to activate the new configuration, you just need to reload the Apache 2 service using system control. It says service Apache 2 restart, but as I covered a few videos ago, we're using system control, and I would recommend using system control for that. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching. Hello everyone, thank you for joining me again. In this video we're going to be going over installing and configuring PHP MyAdmin. So first, what is PHP MyAdmin? Well, it's easily explained as a graphical interface for interacting with MySQL databases that you can access in your browser. So the way to install it, it is in the official repositories of Ubuntu and should be in all Ubuntu derivatives. So just open up your terminal and type in sudo apt-get install php myadmin. So we're going to set a MySQL admin password. You guys, I have had this package installed already, so you guys may get another prompt asking for a password. I would just use the same one. Just creating a configuration file there. So we're going to now edit the Apache 2 configuration file, and I believe that is just apache2.conf. And it is okay. So sudo nano etc apache2 apache2.conf. And in here, just go to the bottom of the file. And write include etc slash php myadmin slash apache2.conf, and then Control O to save, Control X to exit, and then restart Apache 2. I got the path wrong, I believe. One sec. Is there a PHP? Okay, so let's ls etc php myadmin apache conf. Let's make sure I included the correct file. So in here, At the very bottom, it was etc/phpMyAdmin/Apache. I don't think it was Apache 2. I think it was just Apache. Yeah, okay, yeah, it was. Okay, that was the problem. I included the wrong file. So once you include the correct file, restart Apache 2. If we open up a web browser, we should be able to now access and log into the administrative panel. So localhost phpMyAdmin. And it's remembering my password from a long time ago. That's actually wrong. All right. Yes, let's update that password. So now that we're in here, you guys are probably used to using this. You know, if you've used servers in the past that use cPanel, cPanel uses phpMyAdmin as the MySQL management tool, I guess. So basically, you can create a new database here, call it MyDB, hit create. And then we can let's just create a users table and have 4 rows. Then let's name the rows ID, username, email, and password. That's going to be 255. So an integer limit is 255. Varchar, I believe, is 999. It might be more than that, actually. Generally, this is what I stick with, though. The password is going to be, can we do MD5, even though it's not great? Let's just go Varchar. We can probably change it later. AI means auto increment. And that basically means, let's say I add a user. I'm not going to specify an ID number. It's automatically going to assign to the number 1. And then the next user it creates is going to be assigned to the number 2, and so on and so forth. So we don't need to specify, ID numbers for each one. They will automatically be assigned. And I mean, this is straight run-of-the-mill phpMyAdmin stuff. I'm not doing a tutorial so much into that because that's I don't think it's necessary enough. But I will give you guys a heads up on a few things. So you can browse tables through here. You can create a new table. In the table, you're automatically going to be put to this, and you just click over to structure to see the current columns, to add or delete columns. You can either use the SQL, and you can write your own, like insert into users, and they even have these helpers down here for you. You can search through the database. I've never done this. I've actually found with phpMyAdmin that the search functionality is limited, and so what was it called? Adminer? There's another one that's really good at search, but not so great at everything that phpMyAdmin is. You can just go to insert here, and I'll show you. I'm going to leave this blank. I'm going to insert a user, and then a password. I should be able to turn this into MD5 in here and hit go. Now if you go to browse, here's where you can actually browse the table's data. So right now we've got one entry, and you'll see the ID was automatically assigned as 1. You can export your database. So if you're switching hosts or servers, let's say you would need to export your database, you can just do this, hit go. It's going to download actually that just downloaded the table. If you go to the database and go to export, it's going to export the entire database as an SQL format or CSV, PDF. You got all these options here. And to import the database, you would just make sure you're on your database or table if you just wanted to insert a table, and then you just browse for the file, and it's pretty straightforward. You can drop the table, you can rename it, you can copy it. And it's pretty much just all standard stuff. So that's how to get set up with phpMyAdmin using an Apache web server on Ubuntu. Thanks for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. So let's create a virtual host. And I'm going to explain this as I do it. In the previous video, when we deployed our Meteor application, we created a virtual host for it. And so this is